Hello, Caroline.
Jane Austen says hi.
So it would appear at some point in the past few years of our friendship, I've given you the impression that I am a Jane Austen aficionado. Oops. But I actually don't think you should read the books. You should just watch the movies instead. Especially this one, it's so good. Yes, I liked the movies better, I know that's probably blasphemy. But you should still read Pride and Prejudice. Here's why. So Pride and Prejudice is basically a 19th century rom-com. By which I mean it's a romantic comedy. And it's a pretty classic rom-com. Girl meets guy, girl hates guy, guy hates girl. Story progresses, they realize the other person's actually pretty cool, and they fall in love. Okay, it might not be that basic, but still. But this story is jam-packed with fantastic characters. Let's start with Mrs. Bennet. So Mrs. Bennet is kind of a hypochondriac, and she faints all over the place, and it's kind of really funny. She just freaks out all the time. She's very, very silly. And all she really wants to do is marry her daughters off to wealthy men, which she makes very apparent when speaking with wealthy men. And then you have Mr. Collins. Mr. Collins is hilarious! I love him. So when you were reading Pride and Prejudice, I don't know if you made it to the proposal scene, but that part where he's talking to Lizzie and she rejects him, and then he just keeps going, he begins. Believe me, my dear Miss Elizabeth, that your modesty, so far from doing you any disservice, rather adds to your other perfections. You would have been less amiable in my eyes had there not been this little unwillingness. By which he means that if you'd actually liked me, I probably wouldn't have liked you back. But allow me to assure you that I have your respected mother's permission for this address. Your mom told me that we can get married, so it doesn't really matter what you say. And then he goes on to list all the reasons he wants to get married. Not to her, just married in general. My reasons for marrying are, first, that I think it a right thing for every clergyman in easy circumstances, like myself, to set the example of matrimony in his parish. Secondly, that I am convinced that it will add very greatly to my happiness. His happiness. And thirdly, which perhaps I ought to have mentioned earlier, that it is the particular advice and recommendation of the very noble lady whom I have the honor of calling patroness. He's kind of in love with Lady Catherine de Bourgh, who I should mention is this stuffy old rich woman. In fact, if she condescended to suggest so, he would probably marry her. And have all her babies. But the best part of the scene is that Lizzie rejects him. And he doesn't get it. So Lizzie's all like, I thank you again and again for the honor you have done me in your proposals, but to accept them is absolutely impossible. My feelings in every respect forbid it. Can I speak plainer? Do not consider me now as an elegant female intending to plague you, but as a rational creature speaking the truth from her heart. And he's all like, you are uniformly charming, and I am persuaded that when sanctioned by the express authority of both your excellent parents, my proposals will not fail of being acceptable. Basically, after your parents talk some sense into you, we're getting hitched. Also, Mr. Bennet's just awesome. It's a rom-com. Read it all the way through. But what I really want to plug during this video is that you should watch all of the BBC adaptations of Jane Austen's novels. Because the Keira Knightley version is stupid. There is no kissing scene in the rain. What is that nonsense? And seriously, I love the BBC. Oh, I'm sorry, I got food. I was hungry. But I really do love the BBC, which you should probably already know, because I love Doctor Who. But I also love Sherlock, which is fantastic, and just kind of Stephen Moffat and like Russell T Davies in general. And Torchwood, I forgot to say Torchwood! Classic British comedies, like Are You Being Served? And Keeping Up Appearances and Vicar of Dibley. Fan. General Tso's Chicken. Good stuff. Oh, also the BBC's adaptation of Hamlet with David Tennant. So good! Really, I just kind of wish I was British. Because they have cooler buildings, and they have cool accents, and they're, you know, British. The Doctor Who trailer was so intense! Like that part where River kisses the Doctor. I was surprised. But the music sounds really cool, and there's some pretty creepy looking babies in this one, so... Also, am I the only one who's annoyed by Amy Pond? I don't really like her. Oh, and one last thing. So, the way I do a countdown at least, I take the big number, and then I subtract the little number, and then I get the number of days left until that thing happens. And on that note, 17 days! Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. Kale and Milo, that means you. I know you're watching.